hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here, and in today's episode of The Hypnotist, we're going to do a little bit of explanation and education about one of the key questions that I think comes up. And there's two key concerns that people have about hypnosis. And one is, can I be controlled or made to do something I don't want to do? And I feel like I've addressed that in a different episode. Happy to elaborate that on a future episode. But the second question that comes up that makes people reluctant to see a hypnotherapist is the question, is it safe? So this episode won't be a hypnosis session. I've got hundreds of other episodes. So if you want to hear hypnosis, just kind of scroll through backwards or forwards and you'll hear an episode that actually is hypnosis. This is me answering the question, is hypnosis safe? And I think the question of is hypnosis safe comes from misconceptions about what hypnosis actually is. And I think one of the misconceptions is that hypnosis is something that happens to you rather than with you. And when you see Hollywood movies and things where there is manipulation and control, and you know, one of the recent movies 2 or 3 years ago, you had Get Out. So the protagonist is kind of hypnotized to basically be very vulnerable and, you know, almost kind of trapped in this particular situation. It propagates this myth that therefore hypnosis is dangerous or unsafe. Now, the easiest way to explain what hypnosis really is that it's a conversation with a particular intention. Now, for example, you will listen to a very talented singer and it might create an emotional reaction to you. Certain songs might make you feel inspired or even sad, but that doesn't mean that singing is harmful. Singing is just a particular type of communication. And can anyone sing? Yes, of course they can. Can anyone sing well? No. It takes a lot of practice to be a very proficient singer. And it's the proficient singers, the ones that are highly competent and highly practiced, they tend to have more of an emotional reaction on an audience because the intention of singing is to create some kind of experience and, you know, kind of moment almost for the audience. So it takes competency and practice to get to that level. Hypnosis is also communication, like singing, like stand-up comedy. You know, it doesn't mean anyone can just do it. You need to be competent and skilled, but it's intentional. If the intention of singing is to create an emotional reaction and the intention of a comedian is to make someone laugh, then the intention of a hypnotist, a hypnotherapist, is to create some type of change in the client, the person that they're working with. Now, can anyone be a comedian? Can anyone be a singer? Can anyone be a hypnotherapist? Yeah, anyone can give it a go. We've all done karaoke. I've even tried stand-up comedy, and it's a lot harder than it looks. And all of these things, anyone can try them. Anyone can play football. Anyone can play a sport. But to get to the highest levels, you need to be very committed to that particular thing. So asking, you know, is hypnosis safe would be very similar to saying, is singing safe? Is it safe to listen to a song? Is it safe to listen to stand-up comedy? Now, some people get upset, listen to certain comedians, and they don't like certain things, but can it traumatize them for life hearing some words from a comedian? Not really. And therefore, hypnosis is something very similar. It's a specific type of communication that utilizes the ability to access resourceful states and thinking strategies in the unconscious is very intentional, but it's not harmful. So I think that's where it comes from. It's a misconception as to what hypnosis is. The other thing that are fears related to this idea of is it safe is this worry, this fear that you can get stuck in trance. And I'm kind of smiling to myself because as someone that's been doing this, for many years, it's a ridiculous thing to believe. But here's the thing, you can believe things that aren't true and you treat it like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So if you fear that you could get stuck in trance, then you would definitely avoid seeing a hypnotherapist because nobody wants to be trapped in anything. It'd be almost like being a prisoner in your own mind. So therefore, it's a valid fear if you believe in an untrue belief. The worst that can happen that I've seen is that people might take slightly longer to awaken from a deep hypnosis experience, or they drift off into sleep. That's the worst thing that can happen if someone's really deep in hypnosis. Certainly, and you can Google. I mean, there might be fake news stories out there. No one's been stuck in a trance. It's a ludicrous thing. But if you believe that, then you might think that hypnosis is somehow dangerous. I think another belief that some people can have about hypnosis is this idea that it can make things worse. And one of the key things that is almost a challenge for a hypnotherapist is to navigate the safety mechanisms that already exist within humans. We're tempted to be influenced by all different people, all different times. So if you see an advert, for example, and it says, oh, it's an amazing car and it's kind of very well priced, you have a safety mechanism in your head that says, this is an advert I'm being sold to, so I can't believe 100% of what I'm being told. And that's what stops you rushing out and buying everything that people try and influence you to buy. You have a safety mechanism. When it comes to change, this is part of the problem, but it's also part of the solution. So if you think of yourself when you've made a New Year's resolutions or you've set a goal, there's a part of you that really does want to do that thing. But then you've got this whole other part which is reluctant or resistant to make that change. And hypnotherapy is no different. As a hypnotherapist, I can make a suggestion, but then if you choose not to act on that suggestion, that's your choice. If you have a subconscious part that is obstructing that for another well-intentioned reason, let's say, for example, someone wants to lose weight, but there's a part of them that associates being skinny with being vulnerable or being, at more risk of something, then you're going to have that conflict. So you've got these safety mechanisms, and in hypnosis, it's really known as ecology. So one of the things that I do normally towards the end of a hypnosis session is I'm checking with non-verbal ideomotor responses. Is there any resistance to making that change? So quite often I'll ask the question, is there any parts that are resistant to making this change? Is there any part that feels that this could have unforeseen circumstances in a different area of the life? And what that does is it enables us to pre-handle issues that could make it worse, because your unconscious knows what's good for you and knows what isn't good for you. And that's why rapport and the credibility of a good hypnotherapist is so important in good change work, because you have to have a level of confidence and trust in the therapist's ability to do something that is in your interest to do. So essentially, can you make things work? Can you make someone do something they don't want to do? No, because your unconscious already has safety mechanisms in place to protect you. And my job as a therapist is to negotiate and work with those safety things so they're also on board with whatever this change may be. And then the third thing that I think people may have a fear about is this idea of, is it dangerous? Could there be physical consequences? And here's the interesting thing. I was just doing some research before I recorded this episode. The average cost of medical malpractice insurance, so if you're a doctor or a surgeon, you need to have insurance in case something goes wrong. And I think people get the sense that even a well-intentioned doctor or surgeon can have the intention to help, but you're talking about lots of different variables, lots of different kind of moving parts, and things can go wrong. And that's why if you're a surgeon or if you're a doctor, you have insurance in place. So if something does go wrong, then you're protected and the insurance will cover a genuine mistake, not negligence, but mistakes that can happen that can cause problems. So, if you're, a surgeon and you miss something and then someone doesn't survive, that's a very negative consequence because that's death. And that happens, unfortunately, all the time in the medical world, in surgery and in, complex work that you're doing with individuals that are sick or unhealthy. And doing some research, the average cost of medical malpractice insurance is thousands. And it could be from 4,000 or 5,000 all the way up to 50,000 to 100,000, depending on the specialization and the risks attached to the kind of medical work that you're doing actually with a physical body. Now, here's what I know as a practicing hypnotherapist. It's a requirement for me to have insurance to do what I do. And the reason that my insurance is so cheap, we're talking like £60, the equivalent of about $70 a year, is because nothing happens negative in the world of hypnosis. You don't get people that have seizures and heart attacks and, problems. You don't, because hypnotherapists generally make things better. And these negative consequences don't happen because it's just a well-intentioned conversation with someone that can navigate certain parts that you don't normally access intentionally. So the fact that if this was a dangerous profession, my insurance should be of an equal level to a heart surgeon or a brain surgeon or someone that does, the anesthesiology, the actual kind of making people unconscious, but using, kind of medicine and anesthetics to do that. And it isn't, the difference is dramatic. So that would give you a clue that hypnosis is very safe. I want to end this by highlighting one key area where hypnosis can, in very rare circumstances, be unsafe. And it isn't to do with the hypnosis, it's to do with the hypnotist. So in every profession, I guarantee if you Google nurses that are criminals, for example, you've seen nurses that have kind of poisoned people or committed horrible crimes. Here in the UK, there was a Dr. Harold Shipman that killed, he was a serial killer, lots of different people. In every profession, you've got bad teachers, you've got bad doctors, you've got bad whatever it might be. And the only thing, in my opinion, that can make hypnosis not safe is not the hypnosis, it's the hypnotist. And if you've got an unethical, let's say, hypnotist that has an agenda, and every now and then I kind of see them because I'm in the industry, I'm in the profession, you see news articles of some poorly trained hypnotist that is being creepy with some clients. It happens very rarely, but you see that in every industry. So the only thing that can really make hypnosis not safe is the choice of the hypnotherapist. And you can, even then, still protect yourself against that possibility, because if you were doing something over Zoom, and I would say 99% now of all my sessions that I do with clients are over Zoom, around about 60-70%, and it's largely down to the growing popularity of the podcast of my clients are US based. So even if I was, and I'm not by the way, but even if I was an unethical hypnotherapist, I'm not in physical proximity to the vast majority of my clients. It's like 1% that I will see face to face, and that's in a clinic, not in my home, not in their home, designed specifically for therapy. And I consider myself a very ethical hypnotherapist with good intentions, and that's the only risk, I think. So I would say if you're going to take away one thing from this episode, if you're considering hypnotherapy, hypnosis is safe. Hypnotherapy is safe. But the one thing that can make it unsafe is choosing a rogue or a bad egg of a hypnotist. And that's why it makes sense to do your research. I would say look for testimonials, look for credibility. How long have they been around? Ask to see qualifications. Make sure you're dealing with someone that's legitimate and credible, rather than, and here's the thing, hypnosis is in most countries, an unregulated industry. I personally wouldn't mind if it was regulated, because I think it would then improve the overall credibility of clinical hypnotherapy. And all these people that have only done weekend courses and don't really know what they're doing, and will say yes to clients, and they don't really have the competency to work with them. It would eliminate a lot of very poor quality hypnotherapists. We don't have something here in the hypnotherapy world which is the equivalent of, here in the UK, we will have a general medical council. So if you see a rogue doctor that is clearly being inappropriate or dodgy, they get banned. They're not licensed. They're not able to continue being a doctor. I would love if there was something like that. Now, the reason why I don't think it's necessary is that these rogue hypnotherapists are very rare, very rare. I mean, you might get 1 or 2 stories a year of some kind of dodgy hypnotherapist. So thankfully, it's very rare, but that would be the one area to keep an eye out as to why hypnosis might not be safe, is if you've got a bad hypnotist. If you are curious about hypnotherapy, and you've just been wondering, like, could hypnotherapy work for you? There will be a link nearby to this episode where you can book a free 30-minute consultation call with me, and I can explain how I would work with you specifically. It's completely free, and normally lasts about 30 minutes. I'll answer any questions that you have and try and figure out what protocols, what strategies would I use if I was working with you. And the key thing to just end on is that there is never any obligation. If you do the 30-minute consultation call, it's not a prerequisite that you then go on and work with me. It's just that a lot of people, when they do have that 30-minute consultation call, start to feel comfortable with me, and they start to get a sense of, I understand their issue and may be able to help. And that doesn't happen in every case, because sometimes there might be a niche that I know other hypnotherapists that really work in a particular sector. So for example, I've never done hypnobirthing. I think I could do it quite well, just because of my delivery of hypnotherapy and my ability to calibrate and know what's going. But I don't specialize in it. So if you booked a consultation call and you said, yeah, wondering if you could help me with hypnobirthing, I would probably get to the end of that consultation call and say, I could do it, but I think you could find someone better. And I know some people that really specialize in this area. Maybe you want to work with them. Because from my perspective, if I don't feel that I can create value, and I think that someone else will, I know that it's good for the industry if you have a good experience with someone competent and proficient in that particular area. And I happen to believe, I know there's a lot of hypnotherapists that are kind of, have the attitude of, oh, you've got to get as many clients as you can. I happen to believe that there is too much need for good hypnotherapists. There's 8 billion people in the world. And if you were to stop 100 people on the street and ask them the question, do you have any addictions that you don't want anymore? Do you have any anxiety that is not helpful for you? Do you have any habits that you want to break? Do you have any areas of your life that you want to change but can't? I'm guessing at least 95 of that 100 people would probably say yes to one of those questions, in which case there's too many potential clients out there. So my perspective is, if I don't feel like I can help and I think there could be someone better suited, it's in all of our interest if you go to the person that would be able to help best, if that makes sense. Appreciate this hasn't been a hypnotherapy session, so I'm going to record another one later today that will be. So if you listened for the hypnosis, thanks for listening to this, by the way, but there will be another hypnosis session very, very soon. Hope you found this useful. This really followed up from a previous one that I did, which was called hypnosis doesn't work. And I had a couple of people message directly as a result of that episode saying, that was quite useful. You know, I've found you because of your hypnotherapy sessions, but that was quite useful to actually hear you talking about hypnotherapy as a thing. And that's why I've decided to kind of follow that one up with this one here. If you find this useful, let me know. If you don't, and you say, Adam, shut up, just do the hypnosis stuff, fine as well. I welcome the feedback loop. And if you are curious about using hypnotherapy for you, please do consider that free 30-minute consultation call. Click the link, book a time. It will generate a Zoom link for you, and we'll have a chat. And maybe, you know, me or someone that I know could be helpful for you to create a change in your life. Is hypnosis safe? Yes, is the short answer to that question. Thanks for joining me, and see you soon.